Hey guys, Sean here and welcome to the F1 word. Now, frustrating is the word I would use to sum up past this season because, well, it has been. It was all looking so good in Australia after Kevin Magnussen picked up 6th place, and I think a lot of people, certainly me anyway, felt like they could well be in that fight for 4th in the championship, at least scrapping towards the top end of the midfield. However, it all began to fall apart pretty much immediately after that, with them only scoring at 4 more races in 2019. I am not going to lie, I did a double take when I was looking at their season results. I knew it had been bad, but wow. One thing that they did get right in 2019 was their one-lap pace. Their qualifying was definitely better than their races, and that gave them something to smile about on a race weekend if we're being generous. In fact, just looking at qualifying, at some events they were the 4th fastest team over one lap, the top of the midfield. The problem was when it came to the races, the bits that matter where the points are picked up, they just fell away, and at some tracks they were even battling at the back with Williams. The biggest issue for them was that they could apparently not get the 2019 Pirelli tyres to work, and Gunther Steiner admitted prior to Abu Dhabi that they had abandoned the 2019 season a long time ago. As the season rumbled on, more stories came out about how they didn't understand the car, and that was kind of evidenced in the summer by the fact that they reverted to the Melbourne spec, essentially trying to revert back to the last point at which everything seemed to work. It was such a disappointment as well because they had come so far last year, and there was a lot of optimism from them and around the team in general coming into the season. I've been racking my brain trying to come up with some positives for the team to take away from their campaign, but it's tough, which kind of tells you everything you need to know, really. I guess going back to what I said about the one-lap pace, they know they can build on that over the winter, at least they've got a car with raw pace in it, and with next year's cars likely to be an evolution of this year's car, again, that's a foundation for them to build off. But looking ahead to next year, they really, really do need to hope that Pirelli's 2020 tyres do have that wider working range that the manufacturer have promised, otherwise it could be another very difficult year for them. I feel for the drivers as well, I really do. Ultimately, if the car won't work with the tyres, they are going to struggle no matter how well they drive. Kevin Magnussen has had an okay year in terms of the way he's driven, and he did manage to outscore his teammate quite comfortably in the end. Funnily enough though, when you look at the races in which both drivers finished, he didn't actually beat Grosjean, with it finishing 7-5 in the Frenchman's favour. I suppose though, at the end of the day, it's the points that matter, and he did end up with a comfortable gap back to Rogro. The Dane did win the qualifying battle as well, 13-8. And when I was going through the stats, I was quite surprised by this, but he holds a very healthy average over Grosjean too. And over the course of one lap, on average, he was just over half a second quicker. That is a big gap between teammates. I'm finding it difficult to really sum up Magnussen's year. Again, that car just did not work in race trim, and so both drivers were always going to struggle. However, when the car worked in quali, he delivered the results and demonstrated the raw pace of the car. I mean, look at Austria, for example, 5th place on Saturday, before then unfortunately having to take his penalties for the race. And in fairness, I also feel like he delivered when the car allowed him to on Sunday, which wasn't very often, but he was okay. Just looking at this season's results seem to highlight the weird year he and Haas have had. Magnussen picked up a total of 20 points from just 4 points finishes. I suppose if I was to sum up my feelings on K-Mag's 2019 in one line, it would have to be that he did the best he could with the car he was given. Then again, you could probably use that argument for most drivers on the grid. I've got a bit more to say on Romain Grosjean though, not a lot more, but a bit more. Let's be honest, whilst he also had to deal with a car that didn't race well, it's not exactly been his best season in F1. As a matter of fact, in terms of points scored, it's his joint worst full season in Formula 1. Look, I give Grosjean a lot of stick, and so do many F1 fans. However, in his defence, there is absolutely no denying that he has had the lion's share of the team's bad luck this season. I sound like Dan, don't I? It was another pit stop issue that cost him in Australia. He was hit by Stroll in Bahrain. He had that brake issue in Baku, a water pressure problem in Hungary, and he was wiped out by Giovinazzi in Russia. Not to mention getting caught out by a red flag brought out by his teammate during quali in Canada whilst he was improving his lap. And of course, there's that collision between the two Haas boys at Silverstone. Whichever way you see that incident at the British Grand Prix, maybe pushed that to one side, there were times this year where the poor guy just could not catch a break. So in that respect, I think he should be cut a little bit of slack. Still though, even with those mechanical issues and collisions that were not always his fault, he wasn't exactly setting the world alight. I think I said this a few times over the season, I wasn't that impressed with his racecraft in the first half of the year. Say what you want about him, I expected more from a driver with his experience. I did read some interesting lines yesterday actually from Grosjean post Abu Dhabi, where he spoke about how he needs to work on his race starts for next year and they were a factor in his struggles, which of course is fair, because falling through the field early on will be one of the reasons why he kept getting into tangles with the drivers. I just thought I'd mention that because I didn't really consider his race starts an issue, but it must have been a contributing factor to his struggles. I'm trying for all of these videos where teams and drivers have struggled to look for positives, and for Romain, I think his positives are that he wasn't exactly battered by his teammate when it came to the race and qualifying battles. Again, in the races they both finished, he actually came out on top, but he will need to improve next year in many departments. He has also absolutely got to bring that quali average down to Magnussen. It went down as a bit of a surprise when Haas announced him as staying for next year, but surely if he doesn't improve, he's not going to get another season with that team. Again though, in some ways that's unfair because the fact of the matter is, that car was just not good enough and neither driver was going to have a spectacular season. Look at it this way, if the team couldn't get on top of understanding the problems and fixing them, what chance did the drivers really have? I'm just hoping they can solve their issues and fight at the sharp end of the midfield again next year. I mean, the midfield fight was awesome this season, but how incredible would it have been if Haas had carried over their 2018 form? That is it then for this video. I'm not going to lie, it was a real struggle to sum up Haas's season without just saying the car's been rubbish. But you can let me know your thoughts on their season down in the comments section. Let me know as well how you feel their drivers got on. Now, I will be back soon with more content as ever, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.